And that's where all of my lives are saved. Oh, good, I'm live. Okay. Anyway, okay, so you can feel free to ask your parenting questions, but what I'm going to do here is I was just saying that I get literally hundreds of questions every day, parenting questions. I can't possibly answer them. So, or else I wouldn't be able to do the lives or coaching or anything else. So what I'm going to start doing now during my lives is every so often I'm going to pepper in some questions I got from elsewhere. I'm only writing one. I'm only going to answer the ones that would help several people. They're more general. Like they would help more than just that one person. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. I'll start there, and then if I'm not getting enough questions, I'll move over to these other ones. I got quite a few of them. Yeah, I won't get to the half of them. Okay, so do you have any parenting questions for me right now? It doesn't matter the age. I specialize in teenagers, but most people on these lives have toddlers. So they're my least favorite age, toddlers. I thought they were great at home, but taking a toddler out, it's constant supervision. So yeah, that's why it's my least favorite age. Love them at home, cute as a button. But yeah, taking a toddler out, flying with a toddler, jeez. And whenever people ask me, how can you help me? Like, how do I make flying easy with a toddler? I'm like, are you a drinker? Okay, I'm not condoning that. How can I help my 3-year-old with behavior at daycare? Daycare that are escalating. Okay, here's the thing. If things are escalating at daycare, it means there's one of two reasons for that. Either it's escalating at home also, and you're probably going to say, no, it's not. Or they get everything their own way at home, and they expect that to happen at anywhere else, basically. So there's those two reasons. Either everything's going kind of disaster at home also, or they get all their own way at home and they expect everyone else to cater to them, to roll out the red carpet like you do. So I'm guessing it's one of those two. Which one would it be? So does that make sense? So obviously, if it's the fact that you are struggling, well, both ways, you really want to set yourself up as a leader. If you're giving in to them and they're okay at home because you're giving in, eventually you're not going to be able to give in to them. So it's going to be kind of difficult down the road. So you might want to check out my boot camp course. It starts at the age of 3, or at the least check out the behavior board. That's completely free. Boot camp course isn't, but the behavior board is. The behavior board is my teaching tool for parents. I never used one. I used in the moment discipline. You'll see that in week 4 of the boot camp course. That's when that starts. But the first 3 weeks are behavior boards. It's all paced out to get you in nice and easy. And then, yeah, it's all paced out. Anyway, so check that out. By the way, there actually is a third reason. If there's something going on at school that's upsetting them, but generally I'm assuming not at daycare, they must, yeah, so. Okay, I'm just trying to hit the see more button. Okay, I have 17-month-old twins and they cry a lot, like if they see us walk by their room. Should my husband and I ignore them? I don't understand that. It's like separation anxiety, but constantly ripping the Band-Aid off every time they see us. I don't know what's going on there. I'd have to do some research on that one. Like what I mean is I need to ask you a lot of questions. That doesn't add up to me. So you walk by the room and they start to cry? I don't know. Why don't they just get up and follow you? Like, I don't understand why they're in their room crying. So anyway, I don't quite know. I would need more information. I may be able to help you on here, but I kind of need to know probably need to ask you more questions about your parenting style. So anyway, if you want my help, you can check out the coaching that's in the link above. But otherwise, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Okay, 2.5-year-old just doesn't stop throwing when he's mad. Okay, that is very common. That's what I call when they go down the violent road. The word violent, I don't even like using that with toddlers, but you know what I'm saying. That's when they're hurting themselves, hurting someone else, or damaging property. So they're getting violent, right? So all you do is you say no, and then you take the toy away, and then you restrain them. So you just restrain them for a little while. You're not talking to them or looking at them. Do not get pulled into those mini therapy sessions. I know they're trendy right now, but they're absolute garbage. Those mini therapy sessions discussing all the big feelings and why you don't do things. 2.5-year-old could give a hoot why they shouldn't be doing something. That's for you. And the words are weak, silence is golden. They're all about actions. And what you want to do is when you don't like what they're doing, you want to give them the cold shoulder. Okay. So you don't like something. That's why you don't do those therapies. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but anyway, you don't do those therapy sessions with them when they're being naughty because you want them to learn, hey, wait a minute, when I'm being naughty, I don't get any attention at all, but you're going to restrain them from harm, right? Does that make sense? Name calling. My kids are 9774. So you got twins and one. Oh, okay. So you've got, wow, 5 kids. This excludes the one, I'm wondering if you had twins and there were 7, were you hoping for twins again? Because you have 5 kids, were you hoping to have another set of twins? I knew someone years ago, they had, I think they had 1 and then they thought they'd have another. So they had triplets and then they thought they'd have another and they had another set of triplets. It's funny. Okay. Oh, they were happy with it, but it was a lot. Okay. And this one, okay. Name calling. My kids are excludes the 1-year-old. My 4-year-old boys with autism. Okay, I don't discuss autism. That's only in coaching. I don't discuss that on here because it's more of a specialty. So I only deal with that in coaching. Yeah, I don't want to discuss that now because you mentioned autism. Yeah, that would only be one-on-one with me during Zoom coaching because autism is a specialty. There's a whole bunch of stuff I just can't discuss on here. It's not a quick live answer, right? Okay, sorry, I have to check my messages. I've got a grandchild way overdue, so we're all just sort of sitting around waiting to hear. Yeah, so I just got a message come in. I just have to see if it's from them. If so, I'm gone. Grandma's gone. Okay, sorry, just a sec here. I got so many screens going, it slows down my computer. Okay, sorry about that. You understand, I got a grandchild on the way. We have a baby gate. Oh, so they're behind the baby gate. Why are they behind? Is that the ones, the 17-month-old twins that are crying every time you walk by? That's why. Why are they behind a baby gate? And yeah, yeah, that's why. So I know why they're crying. I do believe in childproofing. I'm big on it. But why are you on the other side of the gate? I'll tell you a cute story. I used to sew all my kids' clothes. And so that's a lot of sewing, but I do a lot at night when they were in bed. Anyway, but during the day, my son he's 5 years older than his sister. So anyway, he'd be outside the gate. Now I am 2 feet away from him. So the gate, I'm sewing and the gate's right here. So he would happily play for hours talking to me and he'd hand me stuff through the gate, so it was great. It was wonderful. So anyway, my daughter was born. This is all, and she was the easiest kid in the world, but she was Velcro with me. Very different from her. My son was more independent, and an independent play and everything. He was really easy that way, whereas she was easy in every other way, but and even then she never cried. This was all I saw. She'd hang onto the gate like this. That's all she would do. Wouldn't cry, wouldn't whine, nothing, just looking sad as anything. Oh, geez. So anyway, you know what I ended up doing? She was such an easy little girl. I got rid of the gate and I let her sit right beside me. So, because she never touched anything. So she'd be up against me and then she'd play. But yeah, so they're all different, right? But yeah, she would not have been happy with me walking by if she was behind a gate, for sure. I don't think my son would have liked that either, depending on how much it happened. How can I make a 4-year-old listen to me? You set yourself up as a leader and they listen. They don't listen to a non-leader. They don't listen to a pleaser. Or an authority, an inconsistent authority. I don't like authority parenting. It's the old-fashioned way. It's okay. It's not bad. But you tend to be the holier than thou. You tend to be a little bit patronizing than the authority. My way or the highway, because I know better. I would never talk like that. So, but yeah, so set yourself up as a leader. That would not happen. They listen to leaders. You lead, they will follow. They need, crave, and want a leader. They're drawn to a leader. I've got respect with hundreds of kids and teenagers and everything. And people always said, how do you do that? And I said, well, I make them feel good about themselves because I didn't always know how to use the word leader. I didn't always have that term, but I said, yeah, I use fun. Fun and humor is my weapon of choice with kids. I made sure I was fun. And if they did something I didn't like, I just stopped being fun for a minute or two. And it's a little bit more complicated than that, obviously, with the troubled teenagers. But anyway, but yeah, set yourself up as a leader. Check out my boot camp course. That might be perfect for you. I don't know and also if you just want to know my style, you can try just the behavior board. A lot of people get success with just that. So yeah, the course is just obviously uses the behavior board, but it's a lot more in depth. It's 5 weeks, 3 to 12-year-olds. Okay. Okay, what I'm going to do, I was saying earlier before most of you came in, I get hundreds of questions every day from and a million different sources, emails, all my platforms, just everywhere. I can't possibly answer them all, or else I wouldn't be able to do lives or anything. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to take those questions that I get everywhere else, and if I think they pertain to a few, lots of people, I'm going to start answering them. Someone actually asked me, why must you ignore tantrums? You have to, because you're sending the message that when you're in the crazy zone, there's not going to be any reward. Attention is a reward. They will eventually learn. And then some people used to argue, I don't do this anymore. I love it when people argue with me. But anyway, they used to argue with me a minute before. And they'd say, yeah, but then you're ignoring their big emotions and big feelings. That's a bunch of garbage. If they can't handle being ignored during a tantrum, you got bigger problems. That means they don't feel safe. They don't feel treasured. There's something else going on there. So yeah, they can handle that. If they're going through a tantrum and they know they're treasured and loved, they can handle that. So you ignore the crazy, and then as soon as they're done, oh, you all done? You want to go to the park? You see, instantly you reward the calm. You want to read a book? You see, completely changed. Otherwise, you're just filing your nails, waiting. You never leave them alone, and you never talk on your phone, and you never get into a conversation. I think that's actually very rude. I think that you should they need to know that they're having a tantrum. They're safe. You're right there, and you're purposely waiting. Look like you're waiting for a bus. Like this is what they'll end up thinking this way. Oh, I know. When they get a little bit older, not initially. Oh, as soon as I calm down, that'll get attention. You see, that's all. You're just waiting for the calm. That's all. It's really important. But like I said, if their big emotions and their big feelings are a big issue during a tantrum, and you really feel you're damaging them, you want to hire me for that, because you got bigger fish to fry. There's something else going on there. It's ridiculous. I don't know who came up with that. She's like, am I talking to myself? I'm saying it out loud though, aren't I? I have no filtering system. Whatever I say, that's what I'm thinking. Okay. I'm a oh, sorry, I don't discuss step parenting. I only discuss whoever has custody or the biological parent. The reason for that is if I give advice to anybody else and the biological parent or the person who has custody of the child doesn't like it. See where I'm coming from? I get a lot of clients who are step parents, but they also have to have a biological parent there. Or sometimes the step parent has custody. So it can work that way too. Whatever. You understand what I'm saying. How can I help my 3-year-old play on his own? He always asks for us to be with him. Yeah, that's a little bit tricky. I just told the story about my daughter. She was like Velcro, but she wasn't pushy about it. She just wanted to be around me all the time, or else she'd look so sad. It was depressing. But anyway, what I would do with my kids and I've done this with kids I've worked with, is you start playing with them and then you go like this. Oh, right. I'm just going to go do the dishes or the laundry. I'll be right back. Sort of, and then often they'll just forget that you're gone. So yeah, get them started. You got to start the motor. Once it's warmed up, then you can go for a while and see what happens. Give that a go. You know what though? Whenever people ask me about this, what about independent play? I'm thinking, wait till they're teenagers and they don't want anything to do with you. You'll look back on these days and think, geez, I wish they didn't want to be independent of me, So I'm always kind of torn with that one. I love parenting. It was the most fun I ever had in my whole life. Loved it. I miss it. My kids I got a grandchild coming, so that'll be fun again. But yeah, it's even that grandchildren, how can it be as good? People say, I know I'll love them just the same, but you have to hand them back. You get to play with them, but then you got to hand them back. I like keeping them. Yeah, my son's baby will be born. It's late. She's late. But anyway, when she's born, good luck getting her back in the hospital when grandma's holding her. Okay, I've warned them already. So teenage girl, 14, single parent. Okay. Oh, you're the single parent. She's not. My teen doesn't follow any boundaries. And okay, teenage stuff is almost all coaching because it's more in depth. But I'm going to read out my top 3 parenting tips for teenagers. Okay. Okay. Number 1, you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with, or she will shut you out. If she wants advice, she'll ask for it. She already knows it anyway. Number 2, you negotiate pretty much everything. You got to give them a voice. You say something like this: I want you to make your bed every morning. What do you want from me? Okay, even that, don't expect a teenager to make their bed every morning. But one thing they should do is, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper, okay, and nowhere else. And what do you want from me? So I'm taking that back. They don't have to make, I don't think teenagers should have to make their bed every morning. I'm extremely fussy, but I gave my children free reign over that. It was hard for me, believe me. Okay, number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Save your energy for the big stuff if you even have it. Don't micromanage your teenagers. Allow them to make mistakes. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, this is what I would have said. I would have said, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did at your age? Like, in other words, we all make mistakes. It's okay. Laugh it off. Use humor. We all make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes just like you did. It's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. Okay, another 14-year-old. He doesn't want to come out of his room, doesn't want to help with chores, right? Sounds normal to me, but expects me to hand everything. Yeah, sounds pretty normal to me. They will go through a stage like that. It's pretty, with boys, it's interesting because when I'm hired for coaching, the teenage girl, I specialize in teenagers, actually, they're my favorite age. The girls, when I'm hired, are usually between 12 and 16. The boys are almost always just turned 15. That seems to be they've just turned 15 or right around there within a few months. But that's when their testosterone, I believe it has a lot to do with it. And their brains are really affected by that. So yeah, don't expect them to want to do anything, but use my behavior board with teenagers. You call it an accountability chart, and start there and see how you can just put like 1 chore a day or 1 chore a week or whatever. Just start small and make sure you're on there too. That's what makes all this work. Your children aren't listening to you. They're watching you. If you're accountable, they're more likely to be accountable. But with teenagers, this is what it's like with teenagers. Give, 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 give. Ooh, take. Like it's all give, very little take. You gotta be willing to go through that. They're my favorite age. I love raising teenagers. Sorry, I keep looking at my messages because I got a granddaughter due. She's overdue. So we're just all sort of waiting around here. Can't plan anything, just waiting. Okay, love that. That's what I do, is wait for the calm, and people think I need to discipline in that moment. So who gives a hoot what anyone else thinks? I'll tell you a funny story. Well, it's not that funny, but I find it funny. Anyway, my son was 3 and it was the second to last tantrum. We were in a mall, just him and I, and we weren't even doing anything. I didn't even just take him out of somewhere fun. I don't know why. He had tantrums. My daughter never did. He decided to have a tantrum right in the middle of the mall. It was very busy and very loud, so he wasn't disturbing anyone. Anyway, I pulled him over to beside a store, and then I just pulled out my nail file and I'm just waiting. But he was already sort of catching on to mom. She knows what she's doing. Anyway, this was the funny part. It was a really busy, loud mall, and I'm just standing there filing my nails. I guess people found that interesting. So they kept coming up to me. And the young moms, the ones who were inexperienced, didn't know what they were doing. They had little kids, and they were coming up to me saying, oh, you should give him a hug. You should just deal with all his feelings. And oh my God, keep going. Like, who's going to listen to them? It's like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. Like, they haven't raised teenagers. How do they know, right? How do they know? And I already had tons of experience with kids. That's why I kind of knew what I was doing. Anyway, the other part that was funny was these grandmothers and moms with older kids kept coming over and saying to me, you know what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Anyway, as soon as my son finished his tantrum, I said, oh, y'all done? Okay, let's go. We walked off. I don't discuss tantrums before, during, or after. You ignore what you don't want with like tantrums in the crazy zone, and then you give attention when you do want, like the good. So ignore the crazy, reward the calm. Anyway, he only had one more tantrum after that with me. He had more with his dad. His dad was the pleaser, and there's nothing wrong with that. My dad was the pleaser. My mom was the leader. There usually is just one leader in the family. The secret is that the pleaser defers to the leader. Like, I remember asking my dad something once, Daddy, can I have this? And he'd give me whatever I wanted. But he was starting to get fed up with this. So he said, sure, sweetie pie. He used to call me sweetie pie. Sure, sweetie pie. And I'm like, yeah, giddy. And then he says, let's go check with mom first. And I'm like, oh, never mind. And that's what my husband at the time used to do too. He'd say, Joe, do you want me to tell mom? Or let's check with mom. And the kids would go, never mind. So yeah, there usually is one leader in the family. So long as you're both on the same page and the pleaser defers to the leader when necessary. You're not doing that all the time. Plus, by the time they're 3.5, my kids were self-disciplining, so he didn't even have to do that anyway. It's just while they're learning. Whoops, I got to scroll through. I'm only going to answer the questions that are recent in case people have left, right? That's funny to me. Teenagers are your favorite. This is my least favorite. Okay. Oh, good question. Tips for teenagers. Tips for not taking things personally for me as a mom. Yeah, don't get into arguments. That's when they say things that hurt. You know what I used to say? My son was the one that would have argued with me. And when we were arguing, I wasn't 100% good at this, but I know now what I should have done every single time is when things were starting to get heated, and it was always something he should have been doing, but he wasn't. Like we never got heated because I was being unreasonable. I know teenagers don't get that, but because you're always careful with them because you know they're moody, you know they might have a fit or whatever. So you're always kind of on eggshells with that moody teenager, right? Because you're very careful with how you choose your words. But anyway, so I remember what I used to say to him is when we were, sort of getting a little bit heated because he hadn't done something he was supposed to do, I would say, I'll tell you what, sweetie, and I always put that in there, or babe. I always call him babe. I'll tell you what, babe, let's discuss it after dinner, okay? And then I just wander off. You never say, let's talk about it when you've calmed down. That's an accelerator. So you just say, let's discuss it later. Always put like a loving, okay, sweetie, let's discuss it later. How about after dinner, okay? Anyway, I gotta go. So you just end it. If you think you're gonna be reasoning with a teenager who's unreasonable, good luck with that. That's when they can start saying things that you don't like. So yeah. The reason I remember my son was 15 and he said to me, you've been a difficult mother to have. Well, I was stunned. I thought it was wonderful. And I said, what? And he said, because I could never rebel. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to. And I thought, oh, sorry. Anyway, I said, okay, fine, go clean your room. And he never did. Rebellion taken care of. So yeah, he couldn't rebel because I was reasonable and easy to talk to. Interesting, eh? And I didn't argue with him. It was very rare. And also, this happens all the time in coaching, parents of teenagers, but it's so unreasonable. It's so unfair. I give him so much and I'm like, yeah, I'm waiting for you to tell me something that doesn't make any sense. You're raising a teenager here. It's all me, 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 me. They've got a lot on their plate. They're turning into adults. They've got hormones flying. They don't know what their future is going to be. People are pressuring them. What are you going to do when you grow up? There's a lot coming their way. I think you tend to forget that. I think there's more pressure on teenagers now in a lot of ways. I think it's easing up a little bit though. But I know for years there it was that they were all overscheduled. They were all like, just what are you going to be doing? It was a lot of pressure on teenagers. So I think you've forgotten how hard it is to grow up. Yeah. You mentioned one is usually the pleaser. Yep. Anything I say that my 2.5-year-old doesn't like, usually asking to get dressed. Just a second. Asking to get dressed or no to crisps, sweet crisps. Are you English or Australian? I raised my kids in Australia. That's where they were born. She runs to daddy crying or cries and says, I want daddy if he's not there. How can break this cycle as it always results in a tantrum? So daddy's the pleaser. Well, daddy obviously goes behind your back and gives that child something. So you have to get on the same page. That's how you do that. And so what if they say they're just trying to manipulate you? They'll say as they get older too, if you're not a leader, and if you try and lay down the law, they say, I hate you, I this. And I've never heard that with my kids because I wasn't it just didn't happen. I was a leader. But yeah, they'll often say stuff like that. It's just pure manipulation. So that I'm guessing is pure manipulation. Daddy lets me have it. And yeah, so what? Who cares? But try and get on the same page. If my kids had said anything like that, if they'd say, well, dad would let us have it. Well, for one thing, I'd have a hard time not laughing. Because he might, but I mean, as if that has any effect on me, I'd say, well, too bad he isn't here. They would have gone, oh, never mind. So yeah, there's usually a very clear leader in the family, and it usually is the way, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's usually the way it is. So long as that pleaser defers to the leader and doesn't do things that they shouldn't be doing behind the leader's back. Like if your husband is giving them crisps just because they asked, you should always have them say, let's ask mom or let's ask dad. You see? It doesn't make them look, the leader's always going to be the strong one anyway. But so long as you're on the same page, they tend to be more consistent in their behavior with everybody. And they're not going to ask for the other parent if they know there's no point. Can you give me an example of good consequences for teen? A thing like vaping and sneaking on the phone. Okay, that if they're vaping, I can't discuss that because that's kind of next level. That's really unhealthy stuff, and I can't discuss that on here. If you want my help with that, you'd have to hire me because that's sort of next level. I can't give you an easy answer here. They're doing something that's on the next level, so I can't talk about it now. Do you understand that? Yeah, if you want to hire me, we could discuss all that. That's what I do in coaching. But yeah, if they're doing something like smoking, drinking, vaping, I can't discuss that on a live. There's no point. No point whatsoever. We couldn't get to the bottom of it on here. Thank you. Definitely not on the same page. You can understand why that's so important, because what happens when they're really little and they think they can manipulate the other one, they'll give it a go. But once they realize, hey, they're going to ask the leader, they don't even bother. Their behavior, they tend to fall under the leader's umbrella by the age of about 3 to 4. So what I mean by that is when you're a leader, they're really respectful kids with high self-esteem and they're fun. That's basically what a leader does for children. So, but then by the age of about 3 to 4, somewhere in there, they tend to carry that umbrella everywhere. So what I mean is your leader influence affects them everywhere they go. They have become that person that they are with the leader because they like themselves the best. They're the most proud of that person. I'm going to talk about something right now. Sugar. Sorry, sugar is my swear word just because I worked with kids for so long. I can swear nowadays. My kids are grown, but I never used to. Okay, I just want to read what I wrote down. Oh, shoot. Okay, here it is. How to give kids high self-esteem. This is the point I want to touch on just because it's so important. How to give kids high self-esteem. This comes up a lot. Children are overpraised these days. Their self-esteem does not come through praise at all. At all. It comes from pride. If you have a child that's acting out all the time, and I hear parents do this all the time, well, you're normally a wonderful boy. You're so loved. You're so special. He knows he's not. He knows he's loved, but he knows he's being a pain in the butt. It's patronizing. And it's not necessary. You know what makes him feel good is pride in how he's behaving. Pride in who he is. Is he nice? Is he kind? Do people always say, wow, what great kids? I heard that every day. Wow, God, your kids are good. God, you're lucky. I hated that because friends knew I put the work in. So some luck maybe, but a lot of it was work I put in. Anyway, so yeah, overpraising doesn't get you any results at all. None. You're a wonderful little girl. And she's beating up the dog. You know, what is this overpraising? It's nothing wrong with saying, I used to say about my kid, I didn't praise them a lot. But what I did do is I said pretty much every single day, God, I got great kids. Aren't I lucky? And I really felt that way. So then they pick up on that. But they earned it too. Don't overpraise, especially when they're not learning it. Give them pride, and you get pride by how they behave. Their behavior between the ages of 3 to 12 years old is 100% a direct result of your parenting. And if they know they're good people and they're polite and respectful, because you're that way with them. So if they know that they've got all these great things, that's a self-esteem. That's where that comes from. It's not being told you're great. It's overpraising. It's kind of a... I'm going to go on about that more as time goes on because it's so overdone these days. It's the same thing with the participation awards. What a bunch of crap that is. I remember the first time I heard participation awards, I said, what do you mean? They get an award just for turning up? Oh, yes, of course. They're all special. I just, talk about raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I just was so stupid. That was the whole start of the please your parents style. That was what a whole bunch of stuff started coming in. I thought, oh, are you kidding me? What a disaster. Anyway, and we're coming out of that now. I really feel a shift because people realize it didn't work. So you got an almost 4-year-old who tantrums. You can check out my boot camp course. That might be for you because it starts at the age of 3 and you're kind of coming out of the toddler state. So I do have toddler tantrum busting, but you're kind of coming out of the toddler phases, right? So anyway, I would check out the boot camp course. It sets you up as a leader. You lead, they will follow. It's all about leadership. I never cared what kids were like. What I mean by that is I worked with hundreds of kids and often I would be handed a file. And they'd say, oh, you might want to read over this file before you meet this child. I never opened up one single file, not once, not ever, because I knew how to lead. I knew the results I was going to get. So why would it matter what they were like with anybody else? It made no difference to me whatsoever. None. I never opened up one single file. And I always worked with alphabet kids, ADHD, WXYZ. I didn't care about any of that. Why would I do that? Doesn't make any sense to me. To me, it made no sense at all to look at their file. So yeah, you lead, they will follow. Make them feel good about themselves. Make them like themselves. If you want to hear the pool, what time is it? Oh, I got to go. I got to go to Instagram now. I'm going to move over. And if you want to join me there, it's the same title. Bratbusters Parenting. And thanks so much for joining me. If you check out the link, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course. That's all about you, by the way, your leadership skills. And or you can hire me for coaching. That's that top level up, the one-on-one stuff. It's all done on Zoom. Doesn't matter where you live. I get all time zones. Sometimes it's like, early morning for someone and it's late at night for me. It's I'm not good at night, by the way. You want to get me early morning, not at night. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'm moving over to Instagram now. I'm on YouTube the whole time, by the way. Okay, just a sec, YouTube. I got to move over. And that. Done. Okay. Instagrams, people turn up very fast all at the exact same time on Instagram. Nowhere else, just on Instagram. They filter in everywhere else. But yeah, 100 people, bang, all in one go. I don't know why. Anyway. Okay, and there we go. Okay. Well, actually, it took 7-8 seconds. Yeah. Okay. So thanks so much for joining me. I was talking to YouTube. I was yattering on about nothing. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I just finished Facebook, and then after this, I'll be going over to TikTok. So thanks. I'm assuming some of you just came over from Facebook. Anyway, I'll do my best to answer as many questions as possible. If you look in my bio, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, which is all focused on you, not your children. I mean, it filters into them, but anyway. And then the coaching, that's that top level where if you want one-on-one with me. And yeah, some people do. Some people have bought the boot camp course and coaching. They want me to go through it with them. Yeah, it depends on what you're going through. Okay, from the UK, thanks for all the advice. Excellent, excellent. So you're a Pommy, eh? You know what's interesting is when I first moved to Australia, I was there for about 20 years. This is a while ago. That's where my kids are born and raised. All my friends were either Kiwis or Poms. I had no Australian friends the first couple of years. Isn't that interesting? I don't know why that was. And I never ever had any North American friends. In the 20 years I lived in Australia, I didn't have one North American friend. You'd think I would have, wouldn't you? But I didn't search them out. I just, whoever was there, right? That's funny. Okay. Hi, I have 2 boys, 3 and 6, who just don't seem to listen the first until we get threatened shopping. Okay, so they're in charge. That's all it is. It's like, we can wait until they really go to that next level, then we might do what they want. So now they're really young ages. Check out the boot camp course, but in the meantime, you can just try the behavior board and start there. It's not about them. It's not about them not listening. It's about you not giving them anything to listen to because you're not a leader. They don't respect you. That's all that means. They do not respect you. I only ever said anything once. I would never say it twice. Keep watching. It'll all make sense. But yeah, I never said anything twice. I wouldn't have. Well, I just did now when I said that. But yeah, I would never have done that. Leaders don't repeat themselves. You need to put an age. Hello, France. From South Africa, your videos are a big help. Excellent. That's why I keep coming on here all the time, especially on the lives, because I feel it's sort of connecting us. Also, I like you to see everybody else. You're not alone. If you think that there's something wrong with you because you're yelling at your kids or your kids are biting you or whatever, look at how many other people are going through all the same stuff. And when I'm coaching, people don't get that. They don't get that same community feel in coaching. They always think, well, you won't believe this, but you won't believe what's happening. And I'm like this. Yeah, so what? Like, I hear this stuff all the time, but they truly feel isolated because not a lot of parents don't tend to talk about what they're struggling with because they're embarrassed. Parenting is the hardest job in the world with the least amount of training, and yet everyone expects you to be an expert at it, especially you. It doesn't make any sense at all to me. None. Why would you? It came pretty easy to me because I've been working with kids for like 20 years before I had my own. Well, 18 years. I started volunteering in daycare centers at 11 years old, and I always kind of had a knack for it. I was very good at getting the best out of kids. And I remember the daycare workers used to say, how do you do that? I was 11 years old, and they say, how do you do that? You're fun and goofy, and yet they listen to you. I didn't know what a leader was. I didn't know how to explain that. But anyway. So yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. Look at what everyone else is asking. Everyone's going through the same stuff. Okay. So I have to skip ahead a little bit so that I'm not, so in case you've left, right? So that's why I tend to look at the most recent ones. Oh, you're not going to like my answer. General advice for older brother, 2.5 melting down after steered away from 5-week-old little brother. So they'll learn. So what if they have a meltdown? Never be afraid of a fit scene or a tantrum or they're in charge. Just ignore it while they do it. So no, you don't go near the baby. No, and then let them have their fit. That's okay. They'll eventually learn. Old school teacher thinks you're great. Oh, excellent. I get a lot of my clients are teachers, principals, and child psychologists. I also get a lot of contacts from people who want advice, principals, teachers, want advice for their schools. I would never give that advice because it would be bad advice because I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to principal or child psychology or teach. I don't know how to do any of that. I know how to connect emotionally with children. That's what I teach. I connect them. It's personal. Parenting is different from any other role. Why on earth would a child psychologist hire me? Because it's different from child psychology. I couldn't do their job. Of course I couldn't. I have no training. I was going to be a child psychologist. They kicked me out because I asked too many questions. They were good questions too. That's why all the other students started asking me questions. So yeah, they couldn't get rid of me fast enough. It was really stupid, but that was about 40 years ago. And now I'm sure they've improved it, but I couldn't imagine being underneath someone else's umbrella, adult's umbrella, because kids taught me all this. I'm kid taught. I studied kids like crazy. I learned all this from kids. But yeah, they used to teach holier than thou, always outsmarting the children. It was always this sort of kind of coming across as perfect. It was ludicrous. I'm sure they've updated all that, I'm sure. But yeah, I did not agree with any. They couldn't get rid of me fast enough. You know what? It was only after a week that they kicked me out. And I should have held out. They would have paid me double to get rid of me, I'll tell you. Oh, they hated me in there. Because my questions were good. I was challenging them. Okay. Hi from Ireland. Loving your posts and really looking at myself and really trying to keep calm when speaking to them. 8-year-old really thinks he's the boss. I get that now. Perfect. Remember, it's never about the kids. We're not teaching kidding here or teenagering or toddlering. They already know how to do all that. They're just following your lead or lack of it. Okay. So you lead, they will follow. Toddlers are nuts anyway. They're not going to follow right away. They're just learning. But you can still exercise a lot of this anyway. But they won't really pick up on that until they're about 3.5. Okay, I'm going to read it out and I'm going to tell you why I can't answer it. I'd like to, I just can't. My 2-year-old girl with a newborn and the house screaming, newborn, running around tantruming next to the baby, not allowing me to breastfeed baby. What can I do about that? It's physical. What I mean is there's not much you can do. It's just going to be a rough transition time. It's just one of those things. There's nothing I can do. I always say this. I don't always say it, but I've said it a lot. They are my least favorite coaching clients is when someone, because I can't get the results I'd like or that they want. I can still help them more down the road. Here's what you want to do down the road. But when they've got a little one and a new baby, it's my least favorite client to get because it's kind of like my hands are tied, especially if the mother has postpartum. So she's home alone with a brand new baby with postpartum and a toddler. What on earth can I tell her to do? Like it's just physical. I just talk her off the cliff is what I do. She's just about there sometimes. I mean, it can be really rough. So yeah, I just go into mother mode and mother her a lot. But yeah, it's tough. It's just a transition time though. So sorry, I can't help you with that. You can understand that though, right? The toddlers, what can you do about it? I'm going to read my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. I don't know why I always have to open up that little note because I know it off by heart, but I like to get it in the right order. Plus I talk too much. So this way it keeps me grounded. Okay, these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is you connect with a toddler in their world. You don't go to the nail salon with them. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They look at you differently when you enter their world. They just do. Number 4 is very similar. You discipline them in their world. That's why you don't have the mini therapy sessions. Their world is actions. They're watching you. They're not listening to you. Those mini therapy sessions were invented for the mother to feed her needs. They have nothing to do with the toddler. They're ridiculous. Toddlers need consistent corrective actions right in the moment. And then the last one is stop trying to figure them out. They're brand new, fresh human beings. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for one of those years, you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like they have no context of the world yet. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. One marble and some tumbleweed in there. Cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. Okay. Oh yeah, I don't do live videos with anybody else because about a year and a half, and I've been doing these every day for about a year and a half now on TikTok. So, but I didn't know how, I was brand new to lives, and someone said, "Can I come in?" I said, "Sure." And I have a really big following on TikTok, and they just started talking about their business. They wanted my audience. I got rid of them so fast, and I said, "Yeah, I won't be doing that again." So I never did. Not to say you would do that, but there's some, yeah. How to learn to be a good leader. The best thing I have is coaching one-on-one with me, or the boot camp course. If you've got a 3 to 12-year-old, that will teach you how to be a leader. It's all about you. Remember, it's all about you. You lead, they will follow. We're not correcting or fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parenting here. How to be a leader. You lead, they will follow. I got respect with hundreds of kids from, I don't know, 2 up to 20. I mean, I've worked with them all. And I never got easy kids to work with, by the way. They were all challenging. But everyone else sort of said, "Good luck with this one." No one ever said, "Here's an easy one, Lisa." They all went, "Good luck with this one." And I always managed to get respect. Was it them or was it me? Okay, I know how to lead. I know, and that's what I teach. I teach you how to lead. Um, it's a given. It's a lot. You got to give respect to get it. You can't just expect them to be good. It's just ludicrous. It would be like hiring people and wanting them to do a good job for you and then not paying them. It doesn't make any sense at all to me. You got to give to get with all relationships. And you got to give first. And you should approach all relationships like that. Then if it's an adult relationship and they don't give back, then dump them. But in the, you always want to give first and then let them. But kids are different. It may never be get, okay? Like with especially teenagers, maybe a lot of give and not much get, and that's okay because they're your kids. You always take the high road. Hmm. Okay. Can we lead under two besides giving love and saying no? There's a few different things that you lead with. It happens. Everything I teach when I'm talking about toddlers is a form of leadership. One of them is meals. If they're throwing food, this is what I would have done with my kids. I think all kids will try it. I think they both threw food, but this is how I handle it. They throw food. I pick it. You got to be fast though. They got to be able to connect what's just happened to what you're doing. I go no, throw it in the garbage. Then I hand feed them right away. They don't get to hold food after that for the rest of that meal. So you throw food, you get hand fed. Okay, does that make sense? And they may not eat anything else for the rest of that meal. They might be mad. That's okay. They'll have a snack soon enough. They can have the same meal, but you know what I'm saying? Like they'll survive. So yeah, throw food, no, chuck it, and then hand feed them. And then some people have said to me, what if they love being hand fed? Then become really imbecile at it. This is what I would do. If they love being hand fed and they're like 3 years old and this is what you're doing, I would say, okay, so here we go. And oh, gee, I forgot to write a note about that. So get really stupid at it, get really bad and slow and drop stuff. Ooh, they'll get so fed up. They'll be like this, waiting. And you just don't look like you're holding back. Don't tease them, but just, oh, I forgot to do that. Silly me. Yeah, I'm going to do that later. Oh, I dropped it. Oh, okay. Here you see what I mean? You get really bad at it. They'll just say, give me that. And they'll just feed themselves. That's the idea. Do you have favorite books which impacted you, parent, person, or must? Oh, I've never read a book on kids or parenting. Not once, not ever. Why would I? Kids taught me everything. Adults never taught me a thing about kids. Not once. Nothing. Except my mother. My mother was my influence. My mother, I actually wrote about her on my website. She was a joy-seeking missile, the most positive person I've ever met in my whole life. She could take anything and turn it into a positive. When my dad died, I was 14, and it was horrific. He had cancer. So anyway, when he died, I remember we both broke down crying for about 5 minutes. This is my mom. And so we're crying, and then she stops crying, and then she says, "Weren't we lucky to have him for all those years?" That was my mother. She always knew how to make lemonade out of lemons. And that's when she died, it was like it was just transferred over to me. I eliminated any negative people in my life, got rid of them really quickly. And I'm always a joy-seeking missile now. So it was weird. As soon as she died, it was like it passed right into me. It was a bizarre thing. So she was my biggest influence in my whole life. You're not necessarily going to get parenting advice from other parents. You might get it from how you were parented or a mentor, someone that you look up to. And yeah, we had a very fun household. It was always laughter and fun and positivity. I didn't allow my kids to whine or complain. It just wasn't done. We just didn't do it. They could talk about problems. That's different. Okay. I got a problem, Mom. Can we talk about it? Absolutely. What's going on? Okay, let's figure this out together. So my mom never told me what to do. She said, well, I don't know. You're a smart girl. You can figure it out. And then we'd talk about it. So she was my biggest inspiration in my life for sure. Okay. She was 93 when she died, and she died in my arms. And I won't go on about it, but there's there's nothing beautiful about death, I don't think. But if there was, it was a beautiful goodbye. It was we'd already said everything. Say everything to the people that you love now, because you never know. And and we always used to laugh. And this is a really good lesson too. That nothing was left unsaid. I tell my kids I love them every single time I talk to them and see them. My daughter and I say I love you constantly. We see each other every day, and because we live so nearby. And my mom, I told her I loved her every single day, and vice versa. So there was nothing, and we used to laugh, and we used to say, "When I'm on my deathbed, sweetie, we'll have nothing left to say." So she's dying in my arms, and I'm going, "Oh, you were right. We've got nothing left to say." Then I started laughing, and I could feel she was in that death sort of gasping point, but she was. I could tell she was laughing too. Like we had nothing left to say. What a great way to go, eh? Anyway, no regrets. Okay. What are your thoughts on unhealthy food impacting behavior? I can't talk about that because I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, but we all know that healthy food is good. I'll tell you something interesting. My kids, I hate cooking, by the way, but anyway, I'm really into healthy stuff. So I didn't have junk food in the house, and I made everything from scratch, especially when they were little. So all I ever had is healthy food. But when they went to a birthday party or something, I'd say, have at it, eat whatever you want, right? I'm not going to be ludicrous about it. So I said, but then they always came home with a stomach ache because their bodies weren't used to all that garbage. So it just I don't know how that, I don't know about that. And even now, I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. I'm not saying anyone else should be like that. I'm radical. And, but anyway, if I eat anything unhealthy, I pay for it because my body is like a baby's body almost. All I ever put into it, except for Diet Pepsi and sometimes alcohol, but mostly everything I put into my body is really healthy. So when I get something that's not healthy, my body reacts. And it affects my behavior because I have very little energy because my body just goes, what the heck are you doing to it? So that's just my own personal experience I'm talking about. Nothing professional about my knowledge of nutrition or anything at all. But I know how good food makes me feel. That's why, and I know how I like to look and feel. So I just live that way. Both my kids, my daughter's pretty much the same way. My son, not so much. But yeah, to each his own. I hate admitting I'm vegan. I'm not one of those. I'm not pro-vegan. Just works for me. I don't care if you eat. You can sit right beside me and gnaw on a veal, on lamb, or I don't care. That's none of my business. Doesn't matter to me at all. How to deal with negative behavior in public? Great question. Exactly the same as you do in private. Because if you're a different parent when you're out, your kids are going to act out when they're out. Because they're going to go, oh, wait a minute, you're not going to discipline me because you're too embarrassed. This was my attitude. Hey, I'm going to be disciplining my kids. Everyone watch, come around. And I didn't care what people thought. Like, I'm the same mother no matter where I am. 100% consistent. My kids knew exactly how I was going to react to everything. I was predictable. So, yeah, if you're embarrassed when you're out in public, your kids are going to take advantage of it. And you're not a leader. Then you're a pleaser. When you're out in public, you're two different. You got to be a leader the whole time, all the time. I remember we were at this, it's kind of a long story. I'll edit it. Anyway, this family had really rowdy kids, and my kids were sort of getting pulled into this rowdiness. And the mother was yelling at the kids and everything. And I just went over like this, and I looked at my kids and I went like this. And they just instantly pulled away from what the other kids were doing. That's all it takes. Because if you're a leader, like if they didn't though, I would have got up and walked over there. Like, because I don't yell or anything. I would have got up. Yeah. So that's what a leader does. It's not that they're afraid of you. They just know, hey, wait a minute, there's going to be a consequence when we get home. Because they're proud of themselves. They want to please you when you're a leader. That's the thing. It's not that they're afraid of you. They want to please you. It's like, have you ever had a mentor, someone you really look up to? Oh, this was interesting. I talk about this. Don't you treat someone that you look up to really well? Would you ever be rude to them? Someone wrote somewhere, I don't know where it commented on this. I thought this was fascinating. And they said, well, I have people I look up to and I'm rude to them. What I felt like saying is get help. Like if you're that nasty, you need help. Like, if you really look up to someone, you don't treat them like crap. But this person said, well, you're so wrong because I treat them like crap. And I thought, yeah, well, you need some psychological help then. Anyway, I thought that was funny. How do you ignore a tantrum? I talk about this all the time. It feels awkward and I clean or leave the room. Don't leave the room. You want them to see you stand. You want them to know that you're waiting for it to stop. And you don't talk on the phone. You don't get into a conversation. You don't look at them or talk to them. You're just standing there like a nail file. I always use a nail file. I don't care what you do, but don't get your phone out. It looks dismissive and rude because they are going through something. You know, it's a pain in the butt, but they are going through something. So you make it look like you're waiting for a bus. They'll eventually learn that as soon as I stop, she'll go like this. You want to go to the park? Do you want to read a book? So as soon as they're done, do you want to read a book? You ignore the crazy and reward the calm. They will eventually, with this technique, the tantrums will diminish in duration, frequency, and intensity. Okay? But it's not going to be right away because they're learning. They're going to get worse usually because they remember the old you that used to give them all the attention and try, you want to hug it out, you want to go, or they knew the old you. So they're going to get worse before they get better. If you are afraid of a fit, a scene, or a tantrum, your children are in charge, guaranteed. I remember once I was working with this boy. He was 8 years old and he didn't know me. And I was brand new with him. And I said no to something. It was ridiculous what he wanted. And I said no. And he looked at me and he says, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And I looked at him and I said, bring it on. And he never did. He went like this. Oh, he never did. So I got respect with him, but yeah, there's no way. That's my opportunity. Every fit, scene, or a tantrum is my opportunity to exercise my leadership. Because if I'm afraid of you, you're in charge. I have no fear. Or if you have it, don't show it. Okay, this comes up all the time, and it's not my specialty because I teach parenting, but it comes up a lot. How do you deal with grandparents who do not respect boundaries? I would say something like this. Oh, by the way, if you're dropping your kids off and you're not there when the grandparents are looking after them, don't interfere in that. Allow them to do whatever they want. Because if they're in charge of them, then don't micromanage them unless it's food that the kids shouldn't have. You know what I mean? But don't tell your parents or the grandparents how to look after your kids. I think that's rude. I really do. So they're okay to drop your kids off, but you're going to tell them how to deal with your kids? It's like daycare. I would never tell a teacher or daycare or anyone what to do with my kids. If I trust them enough to drop my kids off with them, I don't micromanage. It's none of my business. Besides, I'm such a leader anyway that I know that the kids are going to be great with me when I get them back. Anyway, the only thing you can say is something like this. So I'm assuming you're not micromanaging and they are undermining you. Is that it? So I would say something like this. You know, when you undermine, they are my kids, and when you undermine my parenting, it makes me feel bad. Don't say what they're doing wrong. You already said you're undermining my authority, my parenting. That's enough. And say, it makes me feel bad. What can they say to that? If they keep doing it anyway, then they're just difficult people. Not much you can do. I do have one really good coping mechanism for difficult people. We all know difficult people. I don't have any in my life right now. I'm so glad. I'm 63 years old. You can just eliminate difficult people from your life. It's wonderful. No one questions you when you get older. You don't like someone, they don't bring you joy. If someone doesn't bring me joy in my life, they're not in my life. Because I can do that now, right? Like, it's just great. So much freedom. Anyway, this is how you deal with difficult people. If you're forced to see difficult people in your job or somewhere else where you have to be, like I work for myself, that's it too. I don't have to have bosses or whatever. So anyway, so here's what you say. If someone's being really rude and consistently rude, just say something like this: crazy me. I learned that years and years ago with someone who was very difficult. And so yeah, I just said, crazy Lisa, and they never came at me again. What can they say to that? So if anyone's insulting your parenting, just say, crazy me. Yeah, what are they going to say? Oh, I don't know. You're the first person my husband is totally aligned with on parenting, and so glad I found you. Excellent. You know, a lot of this is really funny. When I get hired for coaching, a lot of times one of the parents is like this, and the other one's like this. And I'm always, gee, I wonder who hired me. It's a mystery. Woo, can't figure that one out. Anyway, my job is to get them on the same page, or at least to have that one defer to the leader, the one who wants to do this. But I always pick a leader and get the other one to defer to get them on the same page. I don't always pick this one as the leader. I pick the one that I think I can get the best results with. So sometimes I do pick this one to be the leader. Isn't that interesting? Like, they're always shocked at that. And I say, well, I'm going to pick a leader and I want the other to defer. Are you in agreement with that? And they'll go, yeah. And I say, okay, I pick you. And they're like, oh, because they didn't want to hire me anyway. But I just can identify sometimes who has the bigger power right now. And that's not even always the one I pick. I never know why I'm going to do it. I just do it. I don't know. I've been doing this for so many years now. But yeah. Can you as a parent oh, such a good question. Okay, I like this one, Daniela Rovelli. Can you, as a parent in public, tell your kids that you will deal about this at home and do so without disciplining outside? Yes, when they get older, not with toddlers. That has to be in the moment, consistent corrective actions. But let's say you're out with your older kids. Like I would never have disciplined them when I'm out and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I would have said, didn't like that. We'll talk about it when we get home. My kids would have been like this. Whoops. So that's what you do. It's called deferred punishment. So you identify that you didn't like what they did, but then you say, and you also be very specific. Say, we'll discuss it in the car on the way home, or we'll talk about it after dinner. I would say the older the kid, the longer I like to defer it for. So if you're out maybe at 10 in the morning, I might say, I'll tell you what, didn't like what you just did. We'll discuss it after dinner tonight. Do you understand? Okay. And then go about your day all happy as ever. So yeah, it's called deferred punishment. So you're pointing out the bad behavior, and then you're telling them when you're going to deal with it. Two reasons why this, well, three reasons. One is you don't have to discipline right in the moment, and because it might not be convenient, right? And it might sometimes makes other people uncomfortable. And there's no need for that. Also, it makes them sweat, and it gives you time to think. So it's three points. That was three, right? Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Um, this seems like an easy question, but it's actually not, and I'll tell you why. My husband works in the basement, and my 4-year-old son wants to be with him. He cries and says, he's so sad. And all. Okay. The thing is, you gotta stick to a regimented routine and have it written up, like have times written up and everything so your son will understand and stick to it. I'm guessing your husband isn't consistent. He might come up sometimes, not others, and then he might play with them. You got to get an abs. It's like school. School has bells going on. They have times when you do stuff that organizes children, and it just helps them to make sense out of everything. So you got to get an absolute 100% consistent schedule going. Not always possible. There's other ways of doing it. But if you're capable of doing that, like some people just, when I get a call, I have to work. That's different. That's really hard to do with kids though. The phone rings instantly. Yeah, so it's harder. But anyway, does that make sense? Get a schedule, have it written up so your son can see it. Do pictures of clocks because he's 4. He probably can't tell. I don't know if he can or not, but you know what I'm saying. He can actually see when dad will be available. And then if he says, I'm so sad, say, well, oh well. Like, don't feed into that. I always say when kids say, I'm sad, I'm lonely, you hate me, I hate you. If they're saying that because they're trying to get something out of you, ignore it. Just say whatever. But if they say that when they're on the Dumbo ride at Disneyland, then you might want to look into it. So yeah, if they're just saying it to manipulate you. Actually, I'm going to move over to TikTok now. So I'm on YouTube the whole time, the whole hour and a half, but I go from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. You know how I know I do that? I didn't used to. I used to go all over the place, like different. Now I do it alphabetically. It's the only way. Because one time I think I went from Instagram to TikTok to Instagram again. I didn't even get Facebook in there. I'm not very bright. Anyway, check out the link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, or my big boot camp course, which is all about you and your leadership. Or you can hire me for coaching. That's that top level one-on-one stuff. It's definitely, you're generally going to get the best results out of that. And also, if you're really struggling with something, then that would be coaching. If it's something really out of the ordinary or crisis or red zone stuff, next level stuff. But anyway, so yeah, but the course is just general parenting stuff, 3 to 12 years old. There's some hard stuff in there too, but it's not when you're red level with stuff. You know what I'm saying, red zone. Anyway, so thanks so much. If you want to join me over on TikTok, that's where I'm hopping now. And YouTube, I'm on there the whole time. Okay, and nope, I'm discarding it. Holy moly. Oh, I forgot to thank Instagram. I hit 200,000 on Instagram. I'm talking YouTube. I forgot to thank them. Anyway. I meant to. I just get so caught up in questions. Get so excited. Okay, sorry. I do tend to ignore YouTube because I'm looking at my camera, but YouTube, I have to look down for your questions. Sorry about that. Plus, it's my smallest following right now, so I often don't even get questions. How do I deal with my kids fighting in the other room while making dinner? 5 and nearly 2 years old. like fighting over toys, not physical fighting. Uh, I got so many different answers for that. 5 and 2, though. Yeah. If you've got sorry, I'm just answering someone on YouTube. If you've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old who are fighting over toys, what you do is the older kid, because it's a 2-year, we're dealing with a toddler here, so it's a little bit different. So if they're fighting over toys, have a separate area where the 5-year-old can go and the 2-year-old has no access to it. So in other words, they can have their own private toys that they can play with. They can even shut the door, make sure that they do have a space they can escape to, and just toys that are just theirs. Okay, so if you said that they're fighting when you're trying to make dinner, of course they are, because they know you're busy. So make sure that they say, okay, that's your time to go and play in your spot, and your little baby or 2-year-old can't get to you there. So, but yeah, what happens is they end up being bored and lonely in their room all by themselves with all their special toys that they don't have to share. They end up learning how to share anyway. That's the idea. It's a little bit more complicated, but that's my general advice. Is that okay? That's on YouTube. You might be gone by now. Sorry, YouTube I have to look down at the screen at my laptop to see those questions. And I sometimes forget because I can see the other ones up here. That's where my cameras are. Just making excuses, aren't I? It's kind of pathetic, really. Okay, so anyway, welcome TikTok. I'm on TikTok, right? Okay. Welcome, and if you go in the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, which is all about you and your leadership. It's not about the kids. It's all about you. Leadership is about you. And or else you can hire me for coaching. That's the next level. You have to hire me for coaching if you're going through something that's either like next level or in the red zone, or teenagers or toddlers if those mini toddler courses aren't enough. But the boot camp course goes from 3 to 12 years old. A lot of people are getting great results on that. Some people double up and also buy sessions at the same time. They just want they want me with them as they're going through it, and that's fair enough too. But you don't need that, okay? A lot of people have been asking, do I need both? No, you don't need that. The course in itself is standalone, unless you're really dealing with something difficult. Yeah, and coaching deals with everything. So never mind. I'll go on. I don't want to go on but just a sec here. I think I just got a message. I got a grandchild overdue, so I got to check my messages constantly. Nope, it's all okay. She's overdue, that baby, so she's keeping us all waiting. Yeah, we're just can't wait to get our hands on her. You know what's interesting is my son and his girlfriend. My son's 34. They've been together for 10 years. So yeah, this very planned baby, and they're very, very excited. And she's overdue now. Anyway, they sent out this notice in the group chat thing, and it said, "Can you please not kiss our baby?" and all these rules. And I thought, wow, you can say that these days, because I used to think that like I was made for this stuff. My son used to say, "You were made for the pandemic. You've been practicing for it your whole life." I'm a compulsive cleaner. I can't touch anything in my home until I've washed my hands. And I would never wear shoes in that. Like, I'm just a really fussy person. So yeah, when they sent, I felt like saying, read your audience. You should have left me out of that comment. I get it. Isn't that nice that they can say that these days? I think especially after what we went through the last few years, it's certainly very wise, until the baby has some shots. But yeah, they just don't want everyone going, drooling all over it. Ah. Okay, now someone just commented on something. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, throwing things. Yeah, every time they throw something, pick it up and put it away where they can see it but can't touch it again. But I don't know the age. Are they 16 or 12 or 2? I need an age. Oh, I don't discuss grandchildren, because if I give parenting advice from people other than parents, I don't do that. What if the parents don't like my advice? You know what I mean? How to control tantrums. You don't control tantrums for kids between 2 years and 7 years old. They should stop having tantrums by about 3 to 4. If you ignore them. And ignoring tantrums is a very specific method in how you ignore a tantrum. I talk about this every single day. I must have said this 20 times today. But anyway, it's just such a common thing that everyone wants to talk how to handle tantrums. You allow your children to control themselves. They're not going to do it right away. They're going to learn how to do it by watching you. And this is what you do. You ignore the crazy and reward the calm. While they're having the tantrum, make sure you look like you're waiting for a bus. Don't talk on your phone. Don't get into a conversation with someone. I think that's rude. You're right there, but you're like filing your nails. If they get violent, you physically restrain them. You still ignore them, but you physically hold them so they can't hurt themselves or hurt you or damage property. If they get bigger, you don't worry about the damaging property because you can't restrain a big kid. Anyway, so you're just waiting. So you're like looking for a bus, waiting for a bus. So as soon as they stop having a tantrum, you go, "Oh, you all done? You want to read a book? Or do you want to go to the park?" You don't discuss tantrums before, during, or after. No one in the 52 years I've been working with kids has ever come up with a decent argument for me on why you don't ignore tantrums. Not once, not ever. Makes no sense at all. Then people will say to me, "But then you're ignoring their big feelings and big emotions." Oh, geez. Tantrums are just a loss of control at not getting what they want, when they want, and how they want it. And if you are damaging a child by ignoring a tantrum, you got bigger fish to fry. You want to hire me because there's something else going on there. If you are damaging a child by doing that ignoring method with a tantrum, there's a lot bigger things going on. You want to hire me for that. One-on-one coaching, and we can discuss that. Yeah. Jeez, these mini therapy sessions. Ugh. You don't ignore children's feelings and emotions, but during a tantrum, independent play. Someone asked, is it important for a 2-year-old to have independent play? Some will, some won't. What is important, I think, is to not overschedule children. They need some time to actually feel bored, so they have to sit in their own head. That's okay. It's not your job to fill every single second with children. It's important that they learn that you're not there as their entertainer. You do it a lot. You want to play with your kids a lot, but if you've got to cook dinner, do some work, or then that's okay. They'll learn. But they're only 2. People tend to have really unrealistic expectations with 2-year-olds. I'll give you my 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. Worry about getting tongue-tied with that. Tongue-tied, that's it. I've been talking too much today. Oh my goodness. Okay, that struck me as funny. My top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is you connect with the toddler in their world. You don't take them to the nail salon, you go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They just look at you differently. When you know how to enter their world, it's leadership. They just look at you differently. Number 4 is it's kind of the same. It's when you're disciplining a toddler, you enter their world. They're not about words. These mini therapy sessions discussing big feelings and big emotions, that was all invented for the mother to feed her needs. It has nothing to do with the toddler. It's just garbage. Toddlers are all about actions, consistent corrective actions right in the moment because they learn through repetition. They're not going to learn the first time, probably not even the 50th, maybe the 51st if you're lucky, but it's repetition. The last one is stop trying to figure them out. They're just toddlers. Some of them will even go like this and smear poop on the wall. Can you figure that out? No, they're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. Anyway, imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and for one of those years you were a potato laying on a mattress. How much context could they have on the world? Some people even said to me, "Can you believe my 2-year-old's so mean? He actually hit my newborn." Mean? He's 2. He doesn't understand concussions, blood clots, hospitals. He doesn't He's not mean. He's just 2. He's 2. Okay. Oh, you asked about autism. I don't discuss that on here. That is, you'd have to hire me, one-on-one coaching. That's a specialty, and I only discuss autism during coaching. So, because I need a lot of information before I can give you any advice. Each child's so unique. No, a lot of them have similar traits, but there's just too many that don't. So that's why. I have no idea what you're talking about, and I don't want to know. Like, I think it's never mind. Okay. Oh my goodness. I have to look it up. Just give me a second here. I have to answer this just because of what you said the second time. I have to. Roblox. That's what I thought. Okay, I'm going to have to read this out. God, you're going to hate me. You're going to end up leaving by the time I'm finished here. Okay. My son keeps begging me for Roblox. I looked it up. I've seen that before. And I didn't have any options except to buy them. I spend $400 per week. He's 8 and demands it. Do you really want me to answer that? You don't, do you? No, I'm not going to answer that. If you want my help, I would say hire me for coaching. That might be 5 sessions. If that's what you're actually saying. Yeah, I don't want to answer that here just because I don't want to. Okay. Please do answer here. No. You know what I'm thinking. You've heard me enough. Unless you're brand new on here, keep watching and you know I didn't answer that. Because he demanded it. Yeah. Mm, never mind. Okay. Move on, Lisa. Uh, I don't know what a consequence should be for a 3-year-old. Okay, use the behavior board. That has an example of how you set that all up. There's always 2 consequences for the kids. There's a very good reason for that. You start with a positive action. If they do something naughty, you get them to do something good to make it up, right? It can just be a chore. Doesn't even if they like doing chores, they're still doing a good deed. Don't get caught up in that. Anyway, so that's the first consequence. It's very hard to get them to do something, and it's almost better if they don't because you've got a backup. So if they won't do the first consequence, the positive action, then you resort to the negative deprivation, the second consequence. So you put something like this: if you hit your little sister or whatever, then you have to empty the dishwasher. If they won't do that, then you put down or 24-hour media blackout. At 3 years old, they might not get that, but take away their favorite toy for the rest of the day or something like that, whatever. But you write it all out. So that's how you do it. But once you've set it, once they wouldn't, and you always put a time on everything, empty the dishwasher within 10 minutes of being asked to do so or something like that. They're only 3. You might have to adjust a little bit so they'll understand. But anyway, and then as soon as you say, well, you didn't do it, and then they'll say, I'll run and do it now. It's too late. Like you said 10 minutes. Are you lying or are you actually going to follow through with that? You have to follow through. I mean what I say and I say what I mean. My kids knew that. So they knew if I said 10 minutes, it had to be 10 minutes. If the alarm went and there was still one more dish left, it wasn't done. You see what I'm saying? You have to mean what you say and say what you mean. You can't lie. The kids pick up on that lying. It's not just inconsistency. It's actually lying if you don't follow through. So anyway, so they didn't do it. So you say, okay, so let's go to the behavior board. You always refer to the behavior board. So you didn't do it within 10 minutes. So now 24-hour media blackout. Then you say, do you understand? I'll do it now. It's too late. 24-hour media blackout. And then that's the end of it. You don't discuss it anymore. If you get pulled into negotiating that stuff, good luck with that. Doesn't work. Anyway, check out my link above because it has my free behavior board, which starts at the age of 3. That's when they can stop and think before they act. Doesn't mean they'll always do it. Or they might stop and think and still do what they shouldn't do. But they have the ability to stop and think before they act. Under that, they're just nuts. But toddlers can still learn, but they learn through consistent corrective actions because it's repetition. It's the same idea that if they keep touching a hot stove, even though they don't understand hot or burning, they'll just won't touch it anymore because something in their brain says don't do it. So that's why you do consistent corrective actions. By the way, your kids aren't listening to you, they're watching you. So make sure that you also set an example. So if you're not on that behavior board, I've actually had clients now, this is really difficult for me and I've learned how to do it. But I get clients all over the world, different nationalities, different religions, different family beliefs, and sometimes the parents will not want to be on that behavior board. I always say to those parents, and I'm always wondering why they hired me because but anyway, and I'll say, you got to give me something though. You got to give me something. So I have to negotiate with them, but I also have to respect their religion, their cultural beliefs, their family dynamics. I have to work with that. So it's not that I think my way is the only way. I know how well it works, but it works in my culture, in North American culture, and a lot of other cultures too, but it might not work if you live in Saudi Arabia or China or, there's all sorts of different cultures out there, and I have to respect that. So that's the only time I kind of give in a little bit because it makes sense, right? How can I just tell someone? I think that'd be very disrespectful if I didn't respect their different cultures and religious beliefs. So I absolutely love your advice and perspective. I just read that out because it was so sweet. Anyway, I'm old too. Like I'm in my 60s now. I know what I'm doing. Like what I mean is I've been doing this for 52 years. I've got the conviction. I've been doing this for so long. I've only been coaching for 17 years, but I've been working with kids for 52 years. I started at 11 volunteering in daycare centers, and I just understood kids. So, I've kind of honed all this over all these years. And parenting, in my view, is experience-based. Kids taught me this. I've never read a book on parenting or kids or anything. Why would I let adults teach me this when I went right to the source? The source are the kids. And they're the ones who said, you got to teach this stuff, Lisa, because the teenagers I worked with said, no one's ever talked to us like this. I didn't listen to them right away because there was no such thing as a parenting coach. I didn't know what that was. How do you teach parenting? Like, I didn't understand. That was about 25 years ago. But anyway, so the kids told me to do this. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be doing it. They planted the seed. And then I wasted $5,000 in career counseling. And they said, oh, it says you got to teach parenting. I should have just listened to the kids. Anyway. Okay. 7-year-old stealing, swearing, hitting, outrageous, taking on my brother from my mom, rough background. Okay. That's coaching. That's next level. You'd have to hire me for coaching if you're able to, or at least just check out the behavior board. The course, the boot camp course, you might get some results from that. But if they're stealing, swearing, hitting, and there's a rough background, it's because you said the rough background. I've dealt with a lot of kids who come from really bad backgrounds, so I'm used to this. Yeah, my specialty is teen crisis work. That's how I started my business. So, but yeah, your best results if you want my help would be coaching. If not, just keep watching. You might start getting some tips and hints. And the behavior board is completely free. It's in the link above. That's my free behavior board. My mini toddler course is my big boot camp course, 3 to 12, and then coaching. You'll notice I got rid of the 1 session coaching. Someone didn't like that. But what I said, and I've been threatening to do that for 2 years now. The reason I got rid of it was it's frustrating for me. I get 1 hour with someone that I don't get to check in and see how it's going. Like, I just find that frustrating. And I always say bye. And a lot of them hire me again, but a lot of them don't. So maybe that's all they can afford, or maybe they just didn't like me. I don't know. But I want to know, like, what, so anyway, it was for my own personal satisfaction. Like, I like to do a good job with people. And 1 session just didn't make me feel like I was doing the best job I could. Anyway, that's why I got rid of it. How do I get coaching? Just go in the link above, and you'll see it up there. Yeah. Any advice for raising children of multiple ages, 15, 8, and 2? Play to each of their strengths and weaknesses. You can't parent them all the same. You can more no, you can't. They're in such different age. You got a toddler, a child, and a teenager. They're 3 very distinct age groups. The only other age group there is baby. I split them into 4. There's baby, toddler, child, 3 to 12. Teens I put with kids, 3 to 12, because your parenting style is very similar. So yeah, you got to shift it up. Should I go into this? I'm just wondering if everyone could benefit from this. When you've got a toddler, it's all about consistent corrective actions. When you've got a child, that's the height of your leadership. Check out the boot camp course or use the behavior board. With teenagers, it's a lot of give and take. You take your leadership down a notch because you want to pass the torch to them. So yeah, you got 3 very different parenting styles in there. I think the biggest family I ever worked with, and I think they had 8 kids. I could be wrong, could be more, but 8 kids. All we did was we focused on systems, and they were all varying ages. We had so many different systems all set up on the boards and everything, and they said that helped because everything was visual. And I said, it's one thing when you got 8 kids to talk about what you want, but it's a very different thing to start setting up schedules. Like, classrooms run like that. There's like this, the bell goes and then this happens. So I said, you got to get really organized with schedule. We didn't schedule everything, obviously, but we scheduled a lot, and boy, it helped. Okay, I'm just going to read something out. I said I was going to do this when I was on Facebook, and then I keep forgetting. I'm trying to change my lives a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Because I get hundreds of questions every day from all my various platforms all over, and in emails and all that. I don't answer them. If I did, I wouldn't have time to do this or anything else. I couldn't even sleep. So what I said I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start answering some of those questions that might help a lot of people on here. So I'm going to take one from here. Just tons. I just wrote a few down. Okay, this one is, let me see. Okay, this one is jealous sisters. So you got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they're very jealous of each other. And the mother was saying that she plays with each child individually, one-on-one time, so they feel special. They end up hating each other because it builds resentment. So when you want your siblings to get along, you play with them. And you never do anything competitive. Don't pull out Monopoly or anything like that. Because, by the way, the first round across the board, everyone knows who the winner is anyway. I don't think I've ever won at Monopoly. I'm horrible at those games. I don't care if I win anyway. But anyway, So yeah, you play with them and you always play to the weakest link. Just play silly games. Just do silly stuff. Look up silly games to play with a 4-year-old, and then the 8-year-old does that too. What you're doing is and then also make a fool out of yourself. I was brilliant at that. I have no pride or dignity when it comes to kids. I use humor to bond with children. So yeah, just play silly games. You can even do magic tricks or just do artwork or whatever, and then just have fun with it. My kids were 5 years apart, and a boy and a girl. They had nothing in common, but they were very good at laughing at mom. So that's how they bonded, because we did a lot of stuff together and they were very good at laughing at mom. Geez, I really want to tell you this funny story. It's so gross, but it's funny. My daughter, I'm going to tell it because I can't help myself. I have no filter system. My daughter, we all had the flu, and it was the one where you poop your pants. So my daughter had it, and I was laughing at her. She was, I think, 3, and we were teasing her about it because she was laughing too, right? We just had that kind of household. So anyway, we're laughing at her, and so the next day we're teasing her about pooping her pants, and she's only 3. Anyway, so we're laughing, we're still talking about it, and she's laughing too. Sure enough, mom's sitting there and poops her pants right there, right then. Like, no, he was 12, so she would have been 7 because they're 5 years apart. I know the reason he was 12, this was so cute. So I had to run down the hall, and all I was doing was screaming out, "I'm pooping my pants," as I'm running, and we were laughing so hard. So I'm in the bathroom, and I could barely talk. I'm laughing so hard because I was teasing my daughter. And then my son was 12 years old. It was just the 3 of us at home. And my son's 12 years old, and he says to me in a really awful voice, he said, "Mom, do you want me to come in the bathroom and help you clean up?" Oh, what a sweetheart. Imagine a 12-year-old boy offering to help clean his mom up after that mess. Anyway, geez, we had a good laugh over that. So yeah, another thing they bonded over was mom pooping her pants. So should I have said that story? Oh, who cares? I don't have any filter. Says it like it is. Okay, let me just get rid of this one now. I want to get rid of that question so I don't answer it again, because that's how I'm trying to answer questions now, is I'm just doing them on lives. Even though this didn't come from the live, like I said, I get hundreds of questions. I can't answer them. I don't have time. So this is how I'm going to do it from now on. Anyway, actually, I have to get going now. So yeah, wasn't he a sweet boy? He's 34 now. I don't think he'd do it now. But what I said at the time was, I said, no, you don't have to, but just save it all up for when I'm old and you're changing my diapers. So, but yeah, wasn't that sweet? But that's how, can you imagine how funny that was? Like, just a minute, I'm running down the hallway holding myself. We're all laughing. It's funny because people, this is interesting to me. People say, oh, I was so upset because the Thanksgiving dinner was a disaster. The turkey wasn't cooked. I remember once I didn't cook a turkey enough. And those are the dinners that you remember. I think it's great because, and then I force fed them. I had to cook it for hours and serve everything else. It was already on the table. So I said, don't fill yourself up, which was stupid. So at 11 o'clock at night, I'm force feeding everyone turkey because it was finally ready. So, but those are the things that people remember. It's the silly stuff. It's the mistakes. So everyone's trying to do everything perfectly. I don't aim for that at all. I'm quite the opposite. I like to throw myself out there and make mistakes and make a fool out of myself. And kids really resonate with that too. Kids love that. They love silly fun. So yeah, don't try and be perfect with everything. Do you think I remember any other Thanksgiving dinner I had? No, I remember that one where I had the undercooked turkey. We still laugh at it. Someone actually said to me, I'll remember when you did that undercooked turkey trying to make me upset with someone I don't like. And I said, the day I cry over a turkey is the day I have my head examined. Like, who cares? Anyway, it's funny. So I got to get going. Thanks so much for following me. And if you're coming over from Instagram, I forgot to mention this. I just hit 200,000 on there, and I've only been on there for about three months now. And I just can't thank you enough. I really appreciate the support. It means a lot to me because I'm helping people, and it just makes me want to do more. So the more people, it sounds kind of silly, but it just validates that I'm actually helping. And that's what I'm all about. I'm older now. I've been doing this for a very long time. And, I don't think I'll ever want to retire now because I'm able to help so many more people because I've kind of gotten more popular online lately. And, but anyway, thanks so much. I really do appreciate it. I got to get going. So check out the link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, or my big boot camp course, or you can hire me. So we'll talk again soon. Bye now. Okay, I might answer a question on here. This is on YouTube. Okay. Oh, good question. I hope you're still there. Sorry about that. From Lovey Martinez. Anyway, this is a really good question. 4 to 5-year-old is still consistent corrective action. Can I build the leadership during play? If they're 4 or 5 years old, that behavior board starts at the age of 3. You don't do consistent corrective action with a 4-year-old. You only do that with under the age of 3. So check out the link in the description in YouTube there, and you can get the free behavior board, and you start them on that, okay? So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And all of my all these lives are saved on YouTube, okay? So you can get access to it anytime. So thanks so much. Talk to you later.